The new FNAF trailer just dropped and it's revealed so much about the lore. So I'm going to give a quick summary of the trailer. We're back in the 1970s as a Fazbear's technician, or at least an employee. So we're told to wander around the factory to collect the mimic, given instructions along the way. And also that we're told that this is because Edwin beat up the mimic because the mimic was still mimicking his son that sadly died. That happens in one of the book stories of the FNAF franchise, if you're not fully up to date. But that means the mimic carries the agony of Edwin. And with the agony that the mimic carries around with it, that means it's going to try and track us down and kill us. To let out its rage, like Edwin let out his rage on it. But on our mission to trace the mimic, we are attacked by a bunch of other animatronics as well, such as this nurse animatronic that looks a lot like Baby. I'll get back to that. It also looks like we're going to use a wind-up mouse to distract one of the animatronics that are going to possibly chase us in one of those scenes. We then appear to be being chased by early Music Man, which for some reason exists very early on in the timeline. And that brings us to the end of the trailer. So what are my thoughts on it? Starting with... Edwin might have been brilliant, but he couldn't have done everything that we see in this trailer by himself. So we start with William Afton, the man himself, the man who killed 5 children. But although not yet, William was a hateful man. Although he had a perfect life as far as he was concerned right now, he always had something in the back of his mind that knew he wasn't fully fulfilled yet. With Afton's brilliance and Edwin's brilliant understanding of animatronics, they both collabed and worked flawlessly beside one another. The one who did business and the one who was the creative one. Edwin disappeared, so Afton only had one choice, and that one choice was to find someone else. But Afton didn't let what he learned go to waste. But that is for later, much later. So here is my second thought. As we can see, the nurse has plump cheeks and big oval eyes, just like Jackie. But it's the fan in the center of her belly that really caught my interest. The fan shares the fan from Baby as well, also similar skirt and similar facial features such as the faceplates. This means that Edwin was straight off ripped off from Afton because as you can see with Baby, she has plump cheeks, similar skirt, fan and facial features. So if the nurse was Edwin's design, means Afton stole Edwin's design-ish. Now for my third thought. So here's the first issues I have with Music Man being in the 70s right now. Where did they get the money from? Straight up, where did they get the money from to make all the gigantic parts that he has? This is a genuine question because this is the 70s. You didn't get a lot of money in the 70s, and plus, where do you get the resources from to make these giant parts for a giant Music Man that was only introduced in 2035, which would have made sense because it's 2035, but this is the 70s. This makes no sense. And second of all, why would Edwin or William want to make a giant Music Man? There is no reason whatsoever why they'd have wanted to make a giant Music Man, unless he was going into the festival, which would have made sense. But where did they put him? In a giant tent as the main performance? And also, where are they getting the funding? Where's the funding? Fazbear, where are you getting the funding? I mean, Fazbear, big company, get it, but where's the money coming for Fazbear to put into the fund for Giant Music Man and Jackie and the festival and a factory and all these mechanical parts and paying the 2 people that are making that? Sorry for my tangent, let's go on to my fourth thought. I already talked about the problem of the funding for Fazbear in my tangent if you didn't skip it. Considering we're in the very early days of FNAF, the factory is actually quite big from what we can see from the trailer. And with its size, it needs employees, obviously. Also, I'm fascinated to see that the Faz wrench has existed for a long time as well. It's not just suddenly a new thing that Security Breach introduced, because the only times we've seen it is Security Breach Ruin and Help Wanted 2. Okay, let's take a break from the Faz wrench and go into the actual factory itself. So, assuming that we do blow up the factory in some way, shape or form,
Now that's a lot of damage!
that's going to cost Fazbear a lot, so that's why they turned into an LLC company. That's why in the trailer the guy talking to us says that Fazbear isn't responsible for any human dismay such as death or dismemberment. The company's not held accountable. Knowing that Edwin had a factory nearly entirely to himself, except from with William Afton maybe being there with him, this introduces a lot about what Fazbear was up to even before the 80s. Still enraged about where they're getting the money from, but anyways. With Edwin's brilliant understanding of animatronics, as I said previously, that means that Fazbear is the head of the game of entertainment for kids, and they want to keep that train going. So that's why, as the employee, we're going to collect the Mimic, because they want to run studies on it, and maybe even use it in the festivals itself. Again, as Edwin is gone, he no longer claims property to the Mimics that he created. That's why they say to collect their property, not his. Now that's all I have for today, but I've got so much more in-depth detail going into the trailers and future videos, so stay tuned for that. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you in the next one.